In a remote Hmong village surrounded by dense forests and towering mountains, there lived a young boy named Keng. From a very young age, Keng was different. He had strange dreams, visions of spirits, and an uncanny ability to sense the presence of the supernatural. His parents, simple farmers, were worried, but the village elder, an old shaman named Pa Tua, recognized the signs immediately. Keng was destined to become a shaman. One night, when Keng was just 12 years old, the spirits came to him in a dream. They showed him a path through the forest to a hidden cave, where he would find the tools of his trade, a drum, a staff, and an ancient book filled with powerful incantations. The spirits warned him that his journey would be perilous and that he would face great trials before he could claim his destiny. The next morning, Keng told Pa Tua about his dream. The old shaman nodded gravely. "You are chosen," he said. "But the path of the shaman is fraught with danger. You must be strong, for the spirits will test you, and the evil in this world is great." Determined to protect his village from the malevolent forces that lurked in the shadows, Keng set out for the cave. As he journeyed through the forest, he felt the presence of unseen eyes watching him, but he pressed on, chanting the protective spells he had learned from the old shaman. At last, Keng reached the cave. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of ancient incense, and the walls were covered in carvings of spirits, both good and evil. At the far end of the cave, he found the drum, staff, and book just as the spirits had promised. As he reached out to take them, a cold wind swept through the cave, and a voice echoed in his mind. "Are you worthy, child?" the voice asked. Without hesitation, Keng replied, "I will protect my village. I will fight the evil spirits." The voice laughed, and suddenly, the cave was filled with a dark mist. From the mist emerged the first of many trials, an evil spirit, a weak but cunning spirit that thrived on fear. The spirit darted around Keng, whispering lies and threats, trying to shake his resolve. But Keng stood firm, chanting a powerful spell. The drum in his hand began to beat on its own, and the mist cleared as the evil spirit shrieked and vanished. Keng knew this was only the beginning. Over the following weeks, he faced spirit after spirit, each one more powerful than the last. He fought spirit that caused illness, ghosts of the restless dead, and shaman, malevolent spirits that possessed the villagers, driving them to madness. With each victory, Keng grew stronger, his connection to the spirit world deepening. But the most fearsome challenge lay ahead. One night, a powerful storm swept through the village. Lightning flashed across the sky, and the wind howled like a chorus of angry spirits. The villagers huddled in their homes, terrified, as the sky turned an unnatural shade of green. Pa Tua, the old shaman, called Keng to his side. "A great evil has awakened," Pa Tua said, his voice trembling. "An ancient spirit, long imprisoned, has broken free. It seeks to destroy us all. You must stop it, Keng." Keng nodded, gripping his staff tightly. He stepped outside, into the heart of the storm. The air crackled with energy, and Keng could feel the presence of the spirit, massive, angry, and hungry for destruction. The spirit appeared before him, a towering figure made of swirling clouds and fire. It had a lion head with 2 horns, the ruler of the underworld, freed from his prison and ready to unleash his wrath upon the world. Keng raised his staff, chanting the most powerful spell he knew. The storm responded, and lightning struck the ground at his feet. He called out to the spirits of the sky, the ancestors who had guided him, and they answered. Bolts of lightning shot from the heavens, striking the spirit, but the evil spirit only laughed, absorbing the energy in growing stronger. Desperate, Keng called upon the spirits of the earth and water, of fire and wind. The elements swirled around him, forming a protective barrier. But the spirit was relentless, battering Keng with waves of dark energy. As Keng's strength began to wane, he remembered the words of the old shaman, "The path of the shaman is fraught with danger." He knew that if he failed, his village would be destroyed. With a final, desperate cry, Keng summoned all the power within him. The sky exploded with light as a massive bolt of lightning struck the evil spirit directly in the heart. The spirit screamed, its form dissolving into the storm. The clouds parted, and the wind died down. The village was safe. But Kang was not unscathed. The battle had taken its toll, and he collapsed to the ground, exhausted. The villagers rushed to his side, lifting him up and carrying him back to the village. Pa Tua smiled down at him. "You have done well, young shaman. You have saved us all." From that day on, Kang was revered as the most powerful shaman the village had ever known. He continued to protect his people, fighting off spirits and healing the sick. But he never forgot the price of his power, nor the responsibility that came with it. And when the storms came, the villagers would gather around him, knowing that their lightning shaman would keep them safe. Months had passed since King defeated the ancient spirit of the underworld. The village had returned to its peaceful routine, and Kang had grown into his role as the village shaman. But the burden of his power weighed heavily on him. Pa Tua, the old shaman, had grown weaker with each passing day, his once vibrant spirit fading as the years took their toll. Kang knew that his mentor's time was near, but nothing could prepare him for the day when Pa Tua passed away quietly in his sleep. The village mourned the loss of their elder, and Kang felt the absence deeply. Before his death, Pa Tua had entrusted Kang with all his powerful equipment, the sacred drum, the enchanted staff, and the ancient book of incantations. "You must continue the fight," Pa Tua had whispered with his last breath. "The spirits will not rest, and neither must you." Kang had barely adjusted to his new responsibilities when a young man from a distant village stumbled into Kang's village, breathless and terrified. His clothes were tattered, and his face was pale with fear. "Please, help us," the man gasped, falling to his knees before Kang. "Our village is under attack by a spirit, a dragon spirit. It takes the lives of the learned and the beautiful, leaving them sick and dying. We don't know how to stop it." Kang's heart sank. A dragon spirit, as it was known in Hmong legend, was among the most feared of all spirits. It was said to possess immense power, capable of controlling the elements and draining the life force from its victims. The fact that it targeted those who were knowledgeable and attractive made it even more sinister, for it seemed to thrive on the brightest and most promising lives. Without hesitation, Kang gathered his equipment and prepared to leave for the village. The journey was long, but Kang wasted no time, traveling day and night to reach the besieged village. As he approached, he could feel the dark energy pulsing in the air. The village was shrouded in a thick, unnatural fog, and the cries of the sick and dying echoed through the streets. Kang was met by the village elder, an old woman with tears in her eyes. "It started with the young scholars," she explained. "Then it moved on to the others, those who were beautiful, those who were gifted. One by one, they fell ill, wasting away as if the life was being sucked out of them. Now we fear there is no one left who can stop it." Kang nodded solemnly. "I will do what I can," he promised. He began by visiting the homes of the afflicted. The villagers lay in their beds, their faces pale and gaunt, their once bright eyes dull and lifeless. Kang could see the telltale signs of a spirit's curse, dark shadows under their eyes, a faint, sickly glow around their bodies. He knew that the dragon spirit was close, feeding off their life force. Kang took out the enchanted staff Pa Tua had given him. With it, he traced protective symbols around the village, chanting incantations to ward off the evil spirit. But he knew that these measures were temporary. The dragon spirit would not be easily driven away, it would have to be confronted directly in the spirit world. As night fell, Kang prepared for the battle ahead. He set up a small altar in the center of the village, lighting incense and placing offerings of food and drink for the spirits. He then sat cross-legged before the altar, closing his eyes and focusing his energy. The drum began to beat softly, almost as if it had a life of its own, and Kang felt his spirit leaving his body, traveling to the spirit world. The spirit world was a place of shadows and mist, where time flowed differently and the boundaries between life and death were blurred. Kang had been here before, but this time, the air was thick with malice. He could sense the presence of the dragon spirit, a massive, serpentine form coiled around a mountain peak, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The dragon spirit reared its head as King approached, its scales shimmering with a dark, oily sheen. "You are brave, little shaman," the evil spirit hissed, its voice echoing through the spirit world. "But you are no match for me. I have fed on the lives of your people, and I grow stronger with each soul I consume." King raised his staff, the symbols on it glowing with a bright blue light. "I will not let you harm any more of my people," he declared. "I will banish you back to the depths from which you came." The dragon spirit roared in defiance, lunging at King with a speed that took his breath away. But King was ready. He called upon the spirits of the sky, summoning a bolt of lightning that struck the dragon spirit with a blinding flash. The spirit howled in pain, its form flickering and distorting, but it quickly recovered, lashing out with its tail and sending King flying. King landed hard, but he refused to give up. He chanted another spell, and the ground beneath the evil spirit erupted in flames. The dragon spirit shrieked, thrashing wildly as it tried to escape the burning earth. But King was relentless, calling down another bolt of lightning, and then another, each one striking the spirit with precision. The battle raged on, the spirit world trembling with the force of their conflict. King could feel his energy waning, but he knew he had to finish this. With one final, desperate effort, he raised his staff high and called upon the full power of the storm. Lightning crackled around him, and with a deafening roar, a massive bolt struck the evil dragon spirit directly in the heart. The dragon spirit screamed, its form disintegrating into a cloud of ash and smoke. The mist began to clear, and the oppressive darkness lifted from the spirit world. King stood panting, his body aching from the strain, but he knew the battle was won. When he returned to the physical world, he found the villagers gathered around him, their faces filled with hope. The fog had lifted, and the sick were beginning to recover, their strength slowly returning. The evil dragon spirit was gone, its curse broken. King smiled weakly, knowing that he had fulfilled his duty. He had saved another village, just as Patua had once done. But he also knew that his journey was far from over. The spirit world was vast, and there were many more battles to be fought. But with the power of the shaman's tools and the spirits by his side, King was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The village had barely begun to heal from the terror of the dragon spirit when another dark force emerged from the shadows in King's village. This time, it came not in the form of a towering, fearsome creature but in a much smaller, more insidious guise, mice. But these were no ordinary mice. They were spirits, known for their fiery eyes and malevolent nature. It began innocuously enough. A young couple from the village, Chai and Mi, had gone to the fields to tend their crops. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ground, when they noticed something strange, a line of mice, their eyes glowing like embers, moving silently across the path. The couple watched in fascination and dread, sensing that these were no ordinary creatures. Chai, curious and a bit reckless, stepped forward and broke the line of mice with a stick, thinking it would disperse them. But instead of scattering, the mice stopped, their eyes flaring brighter, as if ignited by a sudden fury. The leader of the mice, a particularly large and menacing one, turned its gaze upon Chai and Mi. The couple felt a chill run down their spines as the air grew thick with malevolence. Without warning, the mice spirits turned and began to chase the couple. Terrified, Chai and Mi ran back to the village, but the mice followed, moving in a single, undulating line, their flaming eyes lighting up the darkening night. By the time Chai and Mi reached the village, they were breathless and panicked. They rushed to Kang's house, where they found the young shaman deep in meditation. Gasping for breath, they told Kang about the strange mice with fiery eyes and how they had broken the line, angering the spirits. Kang listened carefully, his expression growing more serious by the moment. He had heard of these spirits before, ancient, powerful beings that were not to be trifled with. The mice spirits were known to take vengeance on those who disturbed them, and their wrath was particularly dangerous because they targeted the most vulnerable, children. As if on cue, the village was suddenly filled with the eerie sound of squeaking and scratching. Kang and the couple rushed outside to find the village surrounded by the mice spirits, their flaming eyes casting an ominous glow. The villagers, sensing the danger, quickly gathered their children, but the spirits were relentless, clawing at doors and windows, searching for a way inside. Kang knew he couldn't defeat these spirits alone. The mice were small but extremely powerful, and their numbers were overwhelming. He would need the full strength of his shamanic power to protect the village. Kang took his staff and struck it against the ground, calling upon the spirits of the earth, water, fire, and air. The elements responded, swirling around him in a protective circle. He then raised his voice in a powerful chant, summoning the spirits of his ancestors, those who had guided and protected the village for generations. The air crackled with energy as the spirits began to materialize, warriors of the past, shamans who had long since passed into the spirit world, and protectors of the village. They formed a barrier around the village, but even they seemed to struggle against the sheer numbers of the mice spirits. Realizing that he needed more, Kang called upon the spirit of lightning, his most powerful ally. The sky darkened as storm clouds gathered, and bolts of lightning flashed across the sky, striking the ground with deafening force. The mice spirits hissed and recoiled as the lightning struck them, their lines disrupted, but they quickly reformed, more determined than ever. The battle raged on through the night, the village caught in the midst of a supernatural war. The mice spirits, small as they were, proved to be incredibly resilient, their flaming eyes never dimming as they continued their assault. They swarmed the village, trying to break through the barrier of spirits and elements that Kang had summoned. Despite his exhaustion, Kang pushed on, calling upon every ounce of strength he had. He raised his staff high and chanted the most powerful incantation he knew, one that would unite all the elements and spirits in a single, devastating strike. The ground trembled as the forces of nature and the spirit world converged, and with a final, thunderous crash, a massive bolt of lightning struck the heart of the mice spirits. The leader of the mice let out a shriek as it was engulfed in flames, its body disintegrating into ash. The other spirits, seeing their leader fall, began to retreat, their flaming eyes dimming as they fled back into the shadows from whence they came. The village fell silent as the last of the mice spirits disappeared. Kang collapsed to the ground, utterly spent. The villagers rushed to his side, their faces filled with gratitude and awe. The children, safe in their parents' arms, looked at Kang with wide eyes, their fear slowly fading. Kang knew that the battle had taken a great toll on him, but he had once again fulfilled his duty as the village shaman. He had protected his people from the darkness that threatened them, but he also knew that there would always be more spirits, more challenges to face. As dawn broke over the village, Kang looked out at the horizon, knowing that his journey was far from over. The spirits of the earth, water, fire, and air still lingered, their presence a reminder of the battle they had fought together. And though Kang was weary, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was the shaman of the village, the protector of his people, and he would continue to fight, no matter what new threats emerged from the shadows.